in my life in the last 2 months that have caused me a lot of thought. A lot of thought that I see reflected in the gospel lesson today. The first is the event that we had in doing I guess it was really a rummage sale, but it was called an estate sale for one of our members, where we labeled about 8,000 items, in which we, over a period of 5 days, sold many. It was good for them and it was good for us. And as I was looking at these, I was thinking about how much stuff there hadn't been used. And then I thought, this is so silly to have so much that you don't use, and when you sell it, it's just worth pennies on the dollar. What are we working so hard and striving so hard for this? And then I started to get self-righteous about it and say, well, I sure don't have that much stuff. I'm not addicted to stuff. And then I went home. You guys that are laughing the most have been in my house. Or you see the little house in the back that's all full of junk. Things that were so valuable. I said, do we spend so much time on things that are irrelevant? And then, as most of you know, the second event that made me think a lot this last week was the death of my brother. He had been to the doctor just a week before, and the doctor talked about his mortality, and he said, you know what, I've been telling people for so long about the better life to come, about heaven. He said, I guess I shouldn't be afraid of it myself. And my brother was deep in faith. But now I'm the patriarch of the family. I'm the only one left. I don't have that mythical brother that's 5.5 years older that I can say, well, at least I'll live till 90. And so I'm starting more than ever before to feel the intensity and the significance of the time now. The now is so important, the urgency of the now. And all these pericope texts, these gospel texts from the 3 Sundays in Easter that we covered so far, they all deal with Jesus showing himself after the resurrection to his apostles and trying to convince them that he was alive. Not only that he was alive, but there was something that they needed to do, and they need to start now. Because the disciples were, well, they were hiding out. They were afraid. They didn't want to go out and do anything. They didn't know what they should do. And Jesus would come back, and he saw his apostles one time, and another time it was just for Thomas. And then we have the third one today. And they don't seem to believe. He said, have you got anything to eat? And he eats a fish. He said, ghosts don't eat. But you got to come to life. You got to get out of here and start doing something. Because there's an urgency to spread the gospel, my gospel, that I am alive. And we look forward to the future. We have this concept of the future. But really, right now is what we ought to be concerned about in terms of what our purpose is. We're daydreamers. We like to dream of the future. We like to paint castles in the sky. And that might be good, but it might be a hindrance too, to understand the significance of the moment. Some years ago, a psychiatrist did a study, and he asked thousands of people the question, what are you living for? What are you living for? Now this is a secular psychiatrist, it's not a religious one. And one of the things that he said about all those interviews, and as I said, there were thousands, he said what surprised him the most in so many people explaining what they were living for were talking about just enduring the present for something better in the future. Sometimes that's the way we are as Christians too. So heavenly bound that we're no earthly good. The college students are waiting to get out so they can be involved in the business world or in whatever vocation they choose. There are entertainers that are waiting for that big moment, not taking these little roles that they have seriously, not understanding that if they don't do those seriously, they might not get the big role. Business people enduring their present job for some promotion. One mother he quoted said, "I can't wait till my husband retires and the kids are gone so that I can rest. I can have things the way I want it." Tolstoy said that's the snare of preparation. Always under the belief that tomorrow is more important than today, and today is simply a presentation of what I will do tomorrow. Sort of like waiting in a bus depot or in an airport. If you're taking long travel, you'll spend a lot of time in various rest areas, just waiting for the end to come. There was a writer who wrote an interesting little thing. He was doing a lot of running. And on one experience in running, he said he had a vision. He had a vision that the road rose up and challenged him and said, "Why don't you saunter along? Take it a little easier. Is there nothing important on this road except the end of it? And if you don't find love, joy, and goodness on the road, you won't find it in the end." You ever thought of life that way, of what you might be missing because you're running too fast? You've got too heavy a schedule, and you don't take seriously the things that are really important. In our text, Jesus comes to apostles again, gives them a sight of him risen, alive, able to eat fish, assuring them that they would recognize his body in perpetuity. In the Old Testament, Jacob is running away from Esau. He's cheated him, stolen a lot of his stuff. And he has a dream. And God comes to him in this vision and tells him what his life will be. But he tells him he has to start now. And Jacob says of this experience, surely God was in this place, and I didn't know it. One of the things I want you to be aware of as you go in your regular activities, God is there. And there's always the opportunity to worship. And don't forget that you need to utilize those opportunities. Yesterday we had our annual blessing of the bicycles. An idea that was conceived, well, maybe it was conceived more than 3 years ago, but we just started 3 years ago. And I lived in a world of people talking about how bad the bicycles were and they should get off the road and the reverse. And then I started to talk to bicyclers and find out what they were doing with all their time on the road, and found out about all that they were good in terms of donating to charities. Each one of them each one of the groups selecting one particular charity they could concentrate on and make money by their biking. And we just told you last week, when the Rosedale ride came by, they told me that this ride alone, in which we participated in, netted $140,000. And so when I see the bikers, I no longer see somebody that is slowing down my transportation, but somebody who's providing, by their donations, some benefit to some child that doesn't have much to going for them. I see some woman's cancer that is detected early because money is provided so that she could get an examination. I see somebody whose life might be made longer with multiple sclerosis, a disease which my sister-in-law died from. Look at bikers in a whole different way. And I wake up and I say, surely God is in this place. And we gave each one of those people a blessing to put on their bike. Some of them are proudly saying, I've got 3 of them. I've been here every year. I can't wait till next year. Every one of them said thank you. Thank you for thanking us. And thank you for having a church that we look at as we drive around the country. That's a place of sanctuary. That's a place of rest. It's some place we want to be and support. Last week, at another event, where we honored the death of somebody who was killed in the Second World War, and their ashes was preserved in France recently through those magic studies of DNA. They discovered who the person was and who their next of kin were, and we had that funeral. And we talked to over 200 people there and told them how we like to support those that are keeping our country free. We believe in what they're doing. And people came up and thanked for what we were doing. And I said, like Jacob, surely God is in this place. You Gideons understand the idea of the present. Bible's got to be distributed now. And you come out and you talk about the experience. And you understand that now is important. We're all looking for a future. But if we don't find love and joy and Jesus along the way, we might not find him at the end of the road. So tomorrow I leave. And Tuesday, I will be throwing dirt in a casket in the cemetery, just like I do many times here. And it'll be my brother. A brother who loved Jesus, was a good minister. Not the greatest in the world, which he said, but a good. And he made me aware, whenever I saw him, that we had something in common. The necessity of doing something now. Amen. (158) is the hymn in the New Sweden Hymn Book. 158, sermon hymn, There's a Wildness in God's